My name is Gerard. You may remember me as Buck Rogers. Now I'm also one of the 60 million people in this country who are morbidly obese. And like a growing number of Americans, I feel I'm down to my last option for losing weight: gastric bypass surgery. It could save my life if I can survive the operation. If I go through with it and all goes well, I might just be able to get my life back. As for my present situation, all I know is I need to take action soon, before it's too late. It's a beautiful autumn day in London. Buckingham Palace is bathed in sunshine and life carries on as usual. Just north of the city, however, it's a whole different universe. At the Center MK in Milton Keynes, thousands have gathered at Collectormania, one of Europe's largest science fiction events. I'm Gerard, and I've been asked to make an appearance here because I played Buck Rogers.
'20th century weapons, where'd they come from?
From an arsenal. Discovered near the ruins of the country's ancient capital,
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
You mean to tell me that those old weapons could possibly be a threat to Earth?
Those are nerve gas canisters, Wilma. Yeah, I'd call that a threat.
Oh, boy.
That nerve gas isn't just a threat.
These days, I bear little resemblance to that guy in the white suit. In medical terms, at 350 pounds, I'm morbidly obese. My weight has drastically changed my appearance, hurt my acting career, and made me physically uncomfortable. Worse than that, it's now beginning to claim my health. It's imperative that I lose at least 130 pounds, but nothing seems to work, and I'm quickly running out of options. Which is why, unbeknownst to anyone here, including my former Buck Rogers castmates, I'm considering having gastric bypass surgery. What I've learned so far from my research is that surgery doesn't offer a simple solution to my problem. To begin with, a patient must address their psychological reasons for overeating before having an operation, or there's a good chance it won't work. Of those who do have surgery, up to 40% of bariatric patients develop complications within 6 months. Almost half of them will end up back in the hospital. Even worse, one recent study reported that among some groups of patients, as many as 5%, 1 in 20 people, die within a year of their operation. Even considering these negatives, I'm still interested. In my research, I've come across a procedure called mini gastric bypass surgery, or MGB, which seems to have a solid track record. I want to know as much as I can before I make my decision. So at the end of the day, back at the hotel, I head over to meet with this woman. Joan Edwards, a former MGB patient, has come to talk with me about the procedure. The reason I started looking into gastric bypass surgery was that a friend of mine had had an operation, and he's like, it's the best thing in the world. I've lost 130 pounds. It's amazing.
The whole pressure, it's 100% removed, 100% removed, because you know you're not going to put the weight on again.
His response was, I wish I had done it years ago. I began to really take a look at my history of weight loss and the fact that I had literally been fighting it for about 40 years. I had had weight losses of 175 pounds, 100 pounds, 70 pounds. If I had been successful, I would have lost one batch of weight, and we wouldn't be talking about doing this operation. I asked Joan what led her to have the surgery.
I was at that stage 255 pounds, and my joints were all hurting. I was out of breath. I was the biggest I'd ever been. And I've yo-yo dieted my whole life. You know, I've lost 14 pounds, put on 18. Lost 18, put on 24, and it's never stopped. I've just continuously got fatter and fatter and fatter. And we were due to go on this superb holiday that we get once a year with a company that I work for. It's a prize, and I'm one of the only females that gets a prize at this award ceremony as part of this holiday. So I spent a fortune buying really nice clothes. If I'd been slender, they'd look really nice. But I just looked atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And every day I put these clothes on, and I could have just wept buckets. Could have wept buckets, and the whole holiday.
It just kept underlying failure, didn't it?
Oh, 100%. I was just... And with this big award ceremony, when all the ladies dress up beautifully in ball gowns, and it's the highlight, and everybody compares how they're looking and everything else, I crept into the room. And I sat at the conference table where we sit to, you know, have your dinner, and I just didn't move the whole evening. There's dancing and everything else, and I just sat there. And when I was presented with my award, I could have crept up there. I'd rather not have gone and got it. And I just came back, and I was just so incredibly upset. We went straight back to the room. We didn't stay the evening or anything. And so came back, and I was just in the, really was the depths of the despair that I've ever been, I think, about my weight. And so I was just watching television, as you do, and I caught 2 little snippets about stomach stapling. I didn't hear either one in full, and I just sat down, and I looked on the internet, I thought, right, and I typed in stomach stapling, and one of the sites that came up, in fact, the first site that came up was the MGB site. And I looked into it, and I read it, and I thought, that looks interesting. I printed off the manual, and there was just so much detail, and you had to be so well informed before you could have it. You couldn't just hand your money over and have the operation.
When did you have the operation?
April the 14th last year.
Of last year?
I actually react now as a normal person to food. It is just incredibly life-changing. And for the rest of my life now, I should be slim. And that's it. And it's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Let's go get it done.
After our meeting, as Joan heads for home, I reflect on our conversation.
I guess being back in England has brought to mind with a lot more clarity, really, where I have come as far as weight and how it's affected my life. Because I remember one of my favorite things was walking through Hyde Park or Kensington Gardens and places like that. And I can't do that anymore because it's so uncomfortable walking. My hips start to hurt, my knees hurt. I like to walk a golf course. I can't walk a golf course now. I have to ride, and I used to play a lot of tennis. I was a very good tennis player, very quick and all that kind of stuff, and I can't even play it anymore.
I used to do a lot of skiing, and I loved to scuba dive.
Of course, I can't do that because of the health problems the obesity brings about. It has affected my career. It has affected my life. I isolate when instead of going out because I'm not comfortable. I don't have clothes that I feel comfortable in. I don't like wearing fat man clothes, but I'm a fat man. I don't want to spend the rest of my life feeling like this. I don't want to spend the rest of my life having to carry that belt extension for the airline seats. I don't want to spend the rest of my life jammed into an airline seat as opposed to being able to sit comfortably in one. You know, I do these signings, and I've actually had people walk up when I'm at the table and say, "When's Gil getting here?" And they're shocked that it's me because I don't look like I did 25 years ago. And I totally understand that. Many times I try to laugh it off, it's like, what'd you look like 25 years ago? I've changed, it's been 25 years. But I realize that, my feeling, and when talking to Joan, for instance, we're talking about the constant sense of failure. It's like every time something like that happens, it just underlines, I'm a failure at this, I'm a failure at losing weight. I always thought if you had to resort to surgery, then you're really a failure. What I was really doing was resisting change. It was a new idea, and it was like, no, we can't do that. Well, we can.
There's a lot to consider and more to learn before I go ahead with it, but
this is my last best hope. That's what I feel. To see someone who was so burdened with her weight and saddened by it, so full of life and energy. That's what I'm hoping for with the surgery.
If I do this,
I think primarily what I'm looking forward to is peace of mind. Of being able to say, the struggle is over.
if I choose to have surgery, it will be performed at the St. Rose Dominican Hospital in Henderson, Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas. Dr. Robert Rutledge, a pioneer in laparoscopic bariatric surgery, will perform the operation. Dr. Rutledge developed the mini gastric bypass procedure and has performed over 3,000 of these operations in the past 8 years.
Morbid obesity is a special kind of obesity where people are at least 100 pounds above their ideal body weight and is associated with a particularly high rate of death and complications. When it occurs in people, it brings along serious medical illnesses. People have been trying to deal with obesity using kind of the common sense approach of eating less and exercising more. Sadly, the scientific studies of such diet and exercise programs show that about 95% of people placed on various diet and exercise programs will fail within 1 year. Surgeons have been trying different kinds of weight loss surgery for the past 20 to 30 years.
and more people are choosing surgery as a means of treating their obesity. Last year, almost 150,000 people underwent a bariatric procedure, up more than 600% from 10 years ago.
But right now in American medicine and around the world, there's lots of reasonable controversy about what is the best bariatric surgery or weight loss surgery.
He's not kidding. Currently, bariatric surgery options include the open Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, laparoscopic Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, anticolic laparoscopic Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, celastic ring vertical gastric bypass, long limb gastric bypass, the gastric band, laparoscopic gastric band, laparoscopic adjustable gastric band, vertical banded gastroplasty, sleeve gastrectomy, not forgetting the biliopancreatic diversion with duodenal switch.
If you found just one technique, you could be pretty sure that was right. If there's a whole raft of different techniques, that suggests that there's still room for improvement, that the real, right, best technique hasn't been identified yet.
There are dozens of different weight loss procedures, a mind-boggling array, and not all are equally successful, both in terms of how much weight you initially lose and whether or not it stays off. Bariatric surgery is by no means a magic bullet, but Dr. Rutledge's procedure posts good numbers, an average loss of 80% excess body weight, and almost all patients don't regain what they've lost.
The mini gastric bypass is a relatively simple surgery, taking on average of about 30 to 40 minutes, usually requires only 1 day in the hospital, and has minimal pain, rapid return to work, and it's simple enough such that it can easily be revised. We divide the stomach and make it about 90% smaller. We take the small bowel and we bypass about 6 feet. By decreasing that upper length, fat absorption and calorie absorption are decreased. So now we have less food that can be eaten and we have less that's absorbed, and that leads to the weight loss.
I'm counting on it working for me. Having decided to have the MGB surgery, I spend weeks completing the extensive amount of pre-op paperwork, then head to Nevada to complete the final steps. My first stop is at a clinic Dr. Rutledge is conducting for pre-op patients. After fielding some questions about the procedure, he introduces some former patients who share their stories.
Most of you know me as Skinny Minnie to be, and so I'll show you this. This is me. And I got rid of all my clothes except for one of my shirts. This is my 3X shirt that I wore.
I started out at 288 pounds. This is my before picture. Backside included.
I had my surgery on November 5th, 2003. My doctor told me I was dying. I was going to be dead within 2 years. And I was going to be in a wheelchair by the end of that year. Now I have a kayak, I have a mountain bike, I have a road bike. The hardest part is to keep your toys limited.
I was 402 pounds. I'm 210 pounds today.
I was 328 pounds, and I am now 150.
I have lost 74 pounds.
I've lost 180 pounds.
I've lost 120 pounds now.
I am 14 months out. I'm 90 pounds lighter. This past May, my biggest joy was to be able to have my 18-year-old son go through this surgery. Since May, he's lost 125 pounds.
As I listen to these people who've been exactly where I am now, who know exactly how I feel, they give me confidence in the surgery and in my decision to have it. Now it's just a matter of my health. Dr. Rutledge and I meet to review my medical history before I get approved for surgery.
Mr. Gerard?
How you doing, Doc?
I guess this is our third visit together?
Yes.
I think the issues we want to go over today are, begin your final preparation and getting ready for the surgery. Discuss any other questions that are outstanding.
Right.
You're on the Coumadin beforehand.
Right.
We're going to take you off the Coumadin.
And we had discussed the lisinopril and the Lovenox and the
digoxin.
Digoxin, yeah.
As we discuss my medical history, it's clear to Dr. Rutledge that I'm not in the best of health.
I think in general, looking at Gil, he comes across as a relatively active and healthy individual. I think as you talk to him more, as you spend more time with him, some concerns arise. Your medical illnesses that we're dealing with in preparation for the surgery, we can kind of just review those again.
The diabetes, cardiomyopathy, AFib,
atrial fibrillation,
some PVCs with exercise.
It's dangerous to have those illnesses. It's dangerous to have those illnesses and try and treat it with surgery. And I think in his case, we can safely do it. Having experience with people like Gil, I think we've got a good opportunity to get him safely through the surgery. Any other things that we ought to discuss in preparation for the surgery?
You've answered all the questions I had, particularly about the medications just beforehand.
Well, very good. Well, we'll see you soon.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Excited that I've been cleared for surgery, I head for home, still not fully comprehending just how serious my situation is.
I'm not sure how bluntly I would tell a patient this. Without surgery, I'd be very concerned about his long-term results. Nobody can say for certain, but that's sure a setup for a high risk of a death within 5 years.
3 weeks after being approved for surgery, I'm on the road to Nevada. I was thinking this morning, I've emptied my refrigerator, my freezer of all the other kinds of foods that I won't be eating, that things will be a lot healthier. So I look around at my house and I think about the fact that I'll be more active, it won't be such a struggle. Just walking around or going up and down the stairs. I'm very positive. It's like, leaving LA was like leaving behind an old lifestyle and going to Las Vegas and getting this procedure done is opening the door to a new beginning, a new lifestyle, healthier, and taking a situation that's been out of control for almost 40 years and getting it under control. I arrive in Las Vegas, having already called my old friend Felix Sila. I informed him of my impending surgery, a subject I'd kept to myself when we were in England. Felix, who co-starred as Tweaky in Buck Rogers, lives in Las Vegas and is planning to visit me after my operation. On the day before surgery, I go to visit another friend, Robert Yellen. At one time, almost 400 pounds, his success with a different procedure is what led me to consider surgery. Less than a year after his own surgery, he's come to Vegas to see me through my procedure. Hey, bud, how you doing?
Hey, look at you.
Good
How
to
you
see
doing?
You doing good?
What's happening?
Oh, nothing much. Just thought I'd come by and say hello.
Come on in.
All right. And you've lost how much?
153 pounds. Got about 20, 25 pounds to go. From 397 pounds to where I am now. I got a great life.
What is it, 6 months?
9 months.
9 months you've done?
It's wonderful. I walked the golf course. I couldn't walk 2 holes before without passing out.
Well, I remember. Neither one of us could walk the golf course before when we played together. I remember getting out of breath, getting out of the cart, walking up to the tee. The two of us sitting in a golf cart.
Do you remember that?
Yes, it was a little sad.
Do you remember?
There was a lot of overlap.
We were going up that hill. I wasn't sure the golf cart's going to make it.
Exactly. See, that's what I look forward to. Is that is having the same success that you're having, and being able to walk a golf course.
You'll see. You're going to do this thing tomorrow, and let me tell you something. It'll work.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Back in my own room with only 12 hours till surgery, I reflect on how I came to be here.
Seems like I've struggled with my weight my entire life, actually, because I remember not feeling good about myself when I was even in the 6th grade. I took a picture and thought I looked too fat in that, which is kind of ridiculous for a 12-year-old. But I started playing football and baseball and basketball and running track, and then it wasn't a problem. I could eat just about anything, and it didn't matter because I was burning up so many calories. I became less active when I got older and went into business. My weight began to bloom, blossom, grow, explode. When I was 25 years old, I weighed 300 pounds. My mother helped me with this thing. There was a book out at the time called Calories Don't Count, which is basically a high protein, low calorie, low carbohydrate diet. And you took these capsules that were supposed to help you lose weight. And I lost weight. I actually lost all that weight. Got myself in pretty decent shape. And then I decided to become an actor. And I moved to New York for 10 years and lived there and worked.
Margot, look, I'm not talking about the scenery. Look, we discussed all that in San Diego. Mid-Island is a good hospital. It's a good place to work. But it's not a teaching hospital.
I really didn't have a problem with my weight because, again, I was very active. But it was always in the back of my mind that I had to watch it. Then I came out to LA, and things got less active. I mean, you can make enough money doing one show or one movie to live on the rest of the year. As happens with LA or Hollywood or whatever, there was a lull, and in that lull I began to gain weight. And I ended up getting up to about 350 pounds. And I went to a 12-step program, and I lost 175 pounds. I got down to 175, had a 29.5-inch waist. I felt really great.
But all it took was one little slip. One day I went to the movies and ate 4 pieces of candy.
And that's the way it started. Again, I'd do the program, and it would start to come down, and it would just stop, and it would start to go back up again. And so I would say what they call the short version of the Serenity Prayer, to hell with it, and I would start eating again to feel better about myself. And so here I am at 350 pounds again. It took me a while,
but I got here.
You know, it's really funny, is it's not really indicative of my lifestyle or what I would like to be doing, but it's very symbolic of what I've done with my life, and that is that I've isolated myself from life, whether that's what I want to do or not. It's just amazing. I mean, you know, it's like I did this to myself, and I look at that and I think, you know, at least now I'm being proactive and taking steps to remedy that situation. And I'm not acting as a victim going, oh, poor me, because, oh gosh, someone poured this food down my throat and made me fat. I did it to myself, and now I'm taking steps to get back out into life itself. I'm in here standing on the inside while life is going on the outside. I intend to remedy that tomorrow.
Walking into the hospital, it's hard for me to fathom that within a year I could be 175 pounds again, half of what I weigh now. But that's my goal, and I'm more than ready to get started.
I'm glad you're here this morning. I thought you had a class or something.
Yeah, well, they
See,
canceled
I remember you
it.
saying.
And I also told my boss, I said, so I shorted it up. So I said, I don't feel comfortable going to a class and leaving my compadres. I need a finger hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So she arranged it, but then when we found out, they canceled it anyway.
I'll be darned.
So, okay.
Okay. I don't know how hard you want me to squeeze your hand.
Wanted to know you were there.
I think it's just the electricity going in between you and me.
Oh, okay. All right. If you say so.
What's happening?
You know as well as I do what's happening.
Look good.
How's it going?
Good. You look comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, I just go where they point me and they poke me and I sit down and everything's fine.
You all ready?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, you know, I mean, my stunt double's going to do this. You know.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
I go through the OR doors
Right.
and I'm out the other
Oh,
way.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so when are they doing the surgery?
Tomorrow sometime.
And they're getting you ready now, right?
Yeah, yeah. They like to take their time. I think it's around 9.
Yeah.
Some of Dr. Rutledge's staff stopped by to check on me. They know all the ins and outs of gastric bypass surgery, mainly because Trish Landman and Sandy Brubaker are themselves former MGB patients.
I had surgery 5.5 years ago with Dr. Rutledge. Then I started working for him. Sandy's my sister, and she was managing 42 medical practices, which she has for about 22 years. And I wanted her to come to work for me. After coming to work for me, she finally had the surgery. This last year, she started getting really ill.
When I started to get onset diabetes and hypertension, and my doctor said, you're going to have to start taking pills, I said, that's it. I'm going to have the surgery done. I had surgery 6 months ago, and I'm 65 pounds out.
Now it's my turn.
After the surgery, can I come back going, oh, God, oh, I'm in such pain. Can I do
You
that?
will say that, but you won't remember.
Oh, okay.
Heading to the OR, I'm not nervous, just excited. This is the exact moment when my new life begins.
Right now, Gil's a person with heart disease, with diabetes, with significant risks. He's having to take a blood thinner to protect himself from clots. A month from now, he's likely not to be a diabetic anymore. He's likely not to have heart disease. He's likely to be active and to have lost 30 pounds already. And our hope is that he'll get more than 140-pound weight loss by the end of next year. All right, start time is now. A normal-sized stomach is roughly the size of a red pepper. We create a new stomach the size of a magic marker. We make a total of 5 ports. Put 4x4s on these so they don't make a mess.
Dr. Rutledge puts a miniature camera through those ports, then performs the entire operation by viewing his work on a TV monitor.
This is the staple gun as we begin to create the new, small, narrow stomach. They're tiny titanium staples about the size of a sesame seed. There's the beginning of the pouch being created on the left-hand part of the screen. We're going to bypass about 6 feet of the small intestine. Do a connection between the stomach and the small bowel with sutures and staples. Operative time?
34.
Good, 34.
Hey, Gil, open your eyes for me. Good. The surgery's all over. How you doing, buddy? Gil, can you lift your head up for me? Good. That's perfect.
Good work.
While I'm being wheeled to my room, Dr. Rutledge checks in with Robert.
Everything went smoothly. We had a little bit more bleeding than usual, so maybe a tablespoon instead of the usual teaspoon. But anesthesia went smoothly, no problems with that. He's awake, and everything basically went perfectly.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. Glad
Yeah,
you.
we're real happy. Everything went great. No problems at all.
Before long, I'm awake enough to have visitors.
Hey, Fiona, how's it going?
Right. I didn't expect to see you in a hospital.
Well, I like a little drama, so I'm having a hard time keeping my eyes open. I go cross-eyed if I want to.
No, don't open them. You just rest. We'll just sit here for a while. We'll visit with you.
It was a study of my beautiful countenance.
Yes, of course.
A little later, Dr. Rutledge stops by on his rounds.
Hey, what do you say?
Feeling better?
A little bit?
Yeah.
Starting to kind of take the edge off it?
Yeah. And I understand my BP's going down, which is good.
What was the last one?
151 over 102.
Oh, yeah,
So that's down from 187. That's much better.
A little bit.
Just keep checking on you. This is the worst of it, the next couple of hours, and then it's all downhill from here.
He's already starting to perk up, though.
Starting to feel better?
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been, I mean, if that's the worst of it,
It is.
it's not bad.
As the day progresses and I feel stronger, I follow doctor's orders and walk the halls, and walk, and walk, and walk the halls every few hours throughout the night. It's part of the post-op process to prevent blood clots and pneumonia. Bottom line, as promised, I'm up and about and feeling good. 24 hours after surgery, I attend a short post-op meeting. We cover some last questions before being discharged from the hospital.
Made it through last night okay?
Yeah, I'm still here. Actually, last night was great. I walked about 7 or 8 times around. And I actually came down here and weighed myself. About 4 o'clock, I lost 2 pounds. I lost 2 pounds this morning. Yeah.
That's so amazing.
I couldn't help it. There was that scale. I had to step on it.
What do you think? Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
I did.
I'm really happy to get started with my life, you know?
Yeah, and it wasn't too bad?
It wasn't too bad. Are you kidding? I think I had a worse time with an ingrown toenail.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Once I sign my discharge papers, I'm on my way. Okay. 5 days later, and I'm back in the hospital. It's already time to have my incision staples removed, and I feel great.
Have you weighed yourself?
Yeah, I lost 20 pounds.
How much?
That's a lot. I
Yeah.
was gonna say you look thinner.
If you have a lot of heart disease, then you have a lot of extra water, from the congestive heart failure, and that caused a lot of fluid loss. Now, for staple removal, we can do that privately, which is the normal way to do it for most doctors' offices. But a lot of people who are in a group just go ahead and say that we can take out their staples in a group. And
fine with us.
Before the surgery, you would have never thought to show your stomach or talk about your weight. That was like taboo.
You're going to see a lot of bruising, but it wasn't the surgery.
is that Lovenox working?
Yeah.
Why so many bruises?
He was getting a blood thinner. All right, everybody, round of applause for yourselves.
With this last step completed, I'm headed for home, knowing that my life is already getting better. Back in Los Angeles, it's not long before I'm feeling like a new man.
It's been a great experience. I've lost 54 pounds. My diabetes is totally gone. My blood sugar, my fasting blood sugar went from over 300 to now it's about 105. I'm only taking one of what used to be 4 or 5 heart medications, and I never felt better in my life. I can actually bend over and change my shoes at the sofa without having to go through a special routine at a special area of the house like I used to. I used to have to do it on the stairs so I could get my leg up and then kind of get around my leg with my stomach, and I can just do it sitting down like a normal human being, and that's one of the things that I didn't think was going to happen this quickly. I have an incredible sense of well-being and a sense of peace from the results that have happened from the surgery. It's very joyful, really. I mean, that's kind of a big word to use for this, but it really is a joyful feeling to realize that the struggle is over.
So far, so good. I can't wait to see what happens next. Where is that quack?
Is there a doctor in here anywhere?
Oh, hey! Wow.
How you doing?
Oh, my
You look great. Wow.
I feel great.
That's terrific.
It hasn't even been that long since I was approved for surgery. But this time, when I sit down with Dr. Rutledge, I'm 80 pounds lighter. We talk about a key factor in my weight loss.
The interesting thing is that I don't get hungry. I have to remind myself to eat.
Many people choose not to have surgery. They're so frightened that when they're not eating that steak post-op, they'll feel kind of like a prisoner, where they're just getting bread and water, and they desperately wish that they could have a really good meal. But you don't sound like it's making you feel sad.
I don't feel deprived. It's amazing to me how little I really need in the way of food. That's what I eat now. This is what I used to eat, about 3/4 of a chicken, a full side of green beans or creamed spinach or sometimes potatoes, and a chicken Caesar salad, which is a full dinner unto itself. Most of the time I was full. Not satisfied, but full.
The interesting thing we think behind that is there's a hormone that makes you hungry. That's the ghrelin we talked about. Ghrelin is a new peptide hormone, like insulin, that is a string of amino acids that causes hunger. When we cut the stomach, measured ghrelin levels go down, and so you eat less, yet you are satisfied, yes?
Absolutely.
Blaming the obese person for their obesity, I don't think is reasonable or appropriate. These people are not bad people. They're not weak people. They have a hormone that makes them hungry that's out of balance.
I'm making my weekly drop to Goodwill because of all the clothes that don't fit anymore. Because somebody can wear them. A way to make sure that they still get used. Okay, see you in a minute. Everything is different now. Even the most mundane aspects of my life are remarkably better. My stomach used to interfere with my steering wheel, and I would have to pull it in real quick in order to finish a turn. I would notice on my shirts there'd be like a black little mark from the bottom of this thing. And I'm like, what is that, 6 to 8 inches away from it now? I just can't believe that there's that much of my stomach gone just a little over 5 months. I mean, it's just amazing to me. Having lost 110 pounds, I'm now even fitting into suits I haven't worn for years, just in time to meet up with an old friend.
Hey, buddy. How you doing, Bill?
Great. How are you?
Looking good.
Thanks.
You doing all right?
Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you.
It's good to see you, too.
Former President Clinton and I have known each other for almost 30 years. He's seen me at all sizes, so I've asked him to share his thoughts on obesity.
When we first met, you remember the Buck Rogers movie had just come out, and you were in great shape. But you told me then that you had even before then once weighed, I think, 295 or something like that, and that you'd always battle with it. And you also gave me some advice about how to adjust my posture so I wouldn't look as fat as I was. I don't know if you remember that. You told me, you know, I should practice standing up against the door. If I could get myself in proper alignment, I'd look 20 pounds lighter than I was. But in the end, you know, you can't cheat it.
All joking aside, Bill Clinton is extremely concerned about obesity. Working with the American Heart Association, he is speaking out about what is quickly becoming a national obesity crisis.
Well, I think we're going to have literally a self-inflicted epidemic, which will explode healthcare costs and diminish the productivity of our economy. People won't be as good at work. Children won't learn as much in school. And it will weaken the country in all kinds of ways. It'll be a terrible human tragedy for all kinds of young people particularly. We have, for the first time in American history now, we have a statistically significant number of our young people who have what we used to call adult onset diabetes, type 2 diabetes. That means that all these young people at a fairly early age will be at risk of losing their limbs, going blind, having all kinds of other problems. We're really running the risk of raising the first generation of children to live shorter lives than their parents.
President Clinton is working closely with Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, another key figure in the fight against the obesity epidemic. During a visit back home in Little Rock, I get the opportunity to speak with the governor about the economic impact of obesity.
The truth is, we don't have an economic challenge in America. We've got a health challenge. We solve that. We solve the economic issues, because we spend 16% of our GDP on health care. There's no other nation on earth spending any more than 9.5% of their GDP. If we spent 11% rather than 16%, it'd still be more than anybody else, but it would save us $700 billion a year. And it's not about cutting health care benefits. It's about making a healthier population. The people who are sick because of medical advances, they're not dying, they're just living a long time in a very unhealthy condition.
It's a grim situation, both in human and economic terms, and things just seem to be getting worse. According to the Centers for Disease Control, 17% of American children and teens are overweight. Children who are obese by the age of 13 have an 80% chance of being obese for the rest of their lives. 1 in 3 children born after the year 2002 will develop type 2 diabetes. A young person who develops diabetes by age 15 shortens their life expectancy by 17 to 27 years.
In doing this show, initially, you know, it was like sort of one man's journey, but I began to see a much larger view, and the knowledge that I've gained in this year of this journey has sobered me in many respects. I think we need to take a look at things more realistically and try to see if we can't stop this, because it's a tidal wave that's beginning to build, and it will crush all of us if we're not careful.
This weekend, I'm headed back east for a science fiction convention. Erin Gray will also be there. She hasn't seen me since London, so I figure I better let her in on what's been happening.
Ta-da!
Oh my God, you are skinnier than when you were on the show. My God, the last time I saw you, I
was dying.
I know. I mean, I felt like there was just no way you could go any longer the way you were. I mean, you're skinny. I mean, skinnier than Buck Rogers. No one's going to recognize you. But this weekend's going to be so cool.
I'm looking forward to the trip, partly because airline seats aren't the problem they were 8 months ago. I can forget about needing that seatbelt extension. At my first public appearance since my operation, I tell the fans a little about my surgery, then show off a pair of my old shorts which I'd recently come across. Well, this was me a little over 7 months ago, and these pants were tight. Well, these grooves here used to leave impressions on my stomach, and I decided I wasn't going to get any bigger than this. But I had expanded in these as far as I could go. It's incredible. This was close to 60 inches, and now it's 34. It's really kind of interesting, the emotions that I find whipping through me right now. It makes me remember how I obviously didn't really care what I looked like when I went in public, and how much I had given up. It's amazing. I don't miss that guy. I really don't. At my last appearance, I sat for hours, uncomfortable if I had to move. This time around, I thoroughly enjoy every aspect of the event. Best of all, not one person's asked, "Where's Gil?" I'm now 145 pounds lighter, and I feel better every day. But just to make sure I'm really healthy, I meet with Dr. Richard Lander, my regular physician, to review where I am health-wise.
I thought it would be a good idea to take a few minutes and review the record that we have of your laboratory testing. We have your numbers preoperatively, and we had it at 10 months. First of all, your fasting blood sugar at the time last August before your surgery, 303, and your latest blood sugar fasting was 100. Similarly, we can talk about your triglycerides, which are in a way linked to the diabetes and your high blood sugar, 989, and your triglycerides now are 112. Your ejection fraction, which is the percentage of blood that is ejected by your heart at each beat, was in the 35 to 40 range, which is now up to 55 or so, which is considered normal. So your body is responding in a positive way to these metabolic changes.
I wanted to really chart factually how well I'm doing, to not just go, well, I'm losing the weight and I feel really good, and then but not have anything, any real basis for it as far as medically concerned. And these are incredible. I mean, I think I'm very heartened by each time those numbers go down.
You've gone from someone with all kinds of cardiac issues and diabetic complications in the future, amputations, kidney disease, renal failure, and you're not going to have any of those problems as far as we can tell. So just from a health point of view, that's dramatic. For those of us who are interested in the economics of health, this surgery has potentially saved hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in future medical expenses. We spend how many millions of dollars keeping people alive, but we're talking here about something which is even more difficult and less quantifiable, which is your quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
Who can put a price on your quality of life?
Actually, it's priceless. It feels good to be able to move again. I started working out shortly after the surgery, but now I'm getting all kinds of exercise. I'm doing things that I haven't been able to do for years. Lately, I'm at the golf course every chance I get, only now I'm walking instead of riding in a golf cart, which doesn't surprise Robert one bit.
I think he's doing terrific. It makes me feel really good to see what he's done. I remember the day before he had his surgery. I talked to him and I said to him, you may be nervous and you may feel, why am I doing this? But this is going to be a very good thing for you.
It's good to be back among the living. I'm even starting to socialize a bit, and I'm beginning to work occasionally. I'm clearing out the last few fragments of my old life. Medications, a breathing machine, blood sugar and blood pressure monitors. I look at those as an awful lot of stuff I had to drag around along with my weight, and I'm glad to be rid of them. Looking over the past year, I'm amazed. There were some things I expected, and I expected the diabetes to be gone. One of the things that I didn't expect was that the heart problems would be gone with no medication. One thing that did happen was that my hair began to thin. There can be hair loss because of the dietary change and the chemical change in your body. Praise God, it's coming back. So I'm happy about that. But that was the only downside, if you can call it that, to the entire thing. I mean, it's just everything else has been really incredible. I went from weighing 353 pounds down to 210. The interesting thing for me is that I had a sort of a goal in mind of 175 pounds, and I'm not there, but I'm totally happy with where I'm at. The major lesson that I've learned is that it's an old saying, actually. If you don't have your health, you got nothing. I went from having nothing to having everything, and I'm very grateful for that. If I hadn't had the surgery, where would I be? Lord, if I was lucky, I'd be dead. Because I wouldn't want to be living the life I would have been living a year later if I hadn't had the surgery. I really did not want to die. I really wanted to live. And
I must say I'm really happy that I did what I did. I have no regrets whatsoever.
It's been a remarkable, exciting, and fulfilling year. I've conquered my weight problem, and this time I'm starting to really believe it's for good. I have my health back, I have a life again, and I have a future. Couldn't ask for much more than that. But I probably will.